Well, the head of the Secret Service on the hot seat on Capitol Hill as we learn that the armed intruder who jumped the White House fence made his way much deeper into the White House than the public was previously told, laying bare a series of security lapses for what is supposed to be one of the most secure places in the entire world.
Is there a crash button, and had it been pushed, would it have locked the front door, what's marked as the entrance hall?
The front door at the time did not have an automatic locking mechanism. It required an individual to hand lock the door.
Okay, so we have an automated system that can lock down the White House. $800 million a year, millions of dollars more during your tenure each year than the president's request, and that door was unlocked with no one standing at it when Mr. Gonzalez came through it. Is that correct?
The door was unlocked at the time of Mr. Gonzalez's entry. That's correct.
Incredible. And this is incredible. This is Outnumbered. I'm Andrea Tanteros here today. Harris Faulkner.
I like that.
Author and political commentator Rachel Campos-Duffy. Katie Pavlich. And today's hashtag One Lucky Guy, the executive producer of the famous Imus in the Morning, Bernard McGurk. And he's outnumbered.
Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Back to the show.
You
Yes.
came back. We didn't scare you away.
Well, no, actually, in all honesty, I got a call from your executive producer, Jay, and he said that the Clooney marriage had cast a pall on the set around here and things. He thought maybe I'd be able to help. And, you know, that's the kind of guy I am. I'm here to help.
We've been very depressed, so
Yes.
we said if you can't get us Clooney, get us Bernie.
Exactly right.
And we do deliver here, don't
That's
we?
right.
And I asked for you first, by the way. I don't know, George.
They've been fighting over you.
They have been, right?
It's been a war in this
I get that everywhere I go.
That's what I hear.
It ain't easy being me.
All right. Well, we were told at first the White House fence jumper only made it as far as right inside the White House door. Now we're finding out it was much, much worse. The intruder, who had a knife on him and reportedly 800 rounds of ammo in his car, overpowered a Secret Service agent at the door before bolting through much of the White House's main floor, running past the stairs leading to the first family's residence, and the intruder making it as far as the East Room in the White House, the scene of so many presidential addresses, so much history, before he was tackled. And as disturbing and shocking as these details are, it's hardly the first serious security lapse at the White House in recent years. Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel, live from the Hill. So, Mike, can you believe this? What's going on down there?
Well, Andrea, some tense moments. The Secret Service director says that officers and agents are allowed to use lethal force to stop an intruder from getting into the White House. The question is, why didn't they? Let's take a live look at the House Oversight and Government Reform hearing, looking into the blunders at the Secret Service. A lot of focus on the Omar Gonzalez fence jumping incident at the White House on September 19th. Initially, it sounded like Gonzalez had been stopped near the front door, but Julia Pearson, the Secret Service director, was asked about where he was actually nabbed further inside the White House.
As Mr. Gonzalez entered the door, he knocked back the officer that was standing at the doorway. The officer then engaged Mr. Gonzalez. They crossed the east entrance hall together, made the left turn down the cross hall. They stepped momentarily into the East Room.
Gonzalez was captured with a knife in his pocket after he breached 5 rings of White House security September 19th. There's been some focus on why agents didn't stop Gonzalez sooner.
If a would-be intruder cannot be stopped by a dog or intercepted by a person, perhaps more lethal force is necessary. And I want those Secret Service agents and officers to know at least this member of Congress has their back. Don't let somebody get close to the president. Don't let somebody get close to his family.
This is just the latest in a series, a string of embarrassing incidents involving the Secret Service, and a Democrat on the panel says it's time for major change.
The time is ripe for a 21st century makeover of the Secret Service. I do not regard this matter as a mere question of personnel. I believe it goes far deeper than that.
Pearson, the Secret Service director, says what happened isn't acceptable and the security plan was not properly executed. She needs to convince lawmakers that it won't happen again. Andrea?
All right, Mike Emanuel from Capitol Hill. Thanks, Mike. Really astounding stuff.
Wow.
Bernie.
Unbelievable.
I was shocked when I heard that he made it into the residence. Now, President Obama wasn't there that day, but it's pretty scary to think that this is a string of events that's happened. The White House is supposed to be impenetrable, and it's not. And we've heard barely any, I would think, fury from the White House, just from Capitol Hill lawmakers.
They almost got an opportunity to take a nap in the Lincoln bedroom. It's unbelievable. I mean, a couple of fat bouncers from a cheesy New York City nightclub could have done a better job than the Secret Service did in this particular case. He would have never gotten into a nightclub. It's just, look, it's no joke. It's no laughing matter. And she testified this morning that this the head of the Secret Service, that 16 people this year so far have jumped over the fence. That's mind-boggling. Make the fence bigger. I mean, at the very least, put some razor wire on top of it.
It's so interesting that we talk about the border crisis and securing our border, and we don't secure the border around the White House. That's a topic for another time. I do want to kind of bring some light, though, into how far this man really got, because we talk about the East Room where the president spoke, but actually it was just outside the Green Room. And if you go to non-public events in the White House, that's one of the first reception areas. It's a very small, quaint room, very cozy, which was refurbished. I think it was 2007 by First Lady Laura Bush at the time. This is an intimate type of setting. We want to make that point because this wasn't some perimeter, and this was far from the front door. You got in.
And Katie, they brought up a lot of good points in these hearings. What if there are multiple jumpers? We've only had one at one time, and they can barely handle that one.
That we know of.
That we know of, right? And also, we learned that there was a button that usually alerts when somebody penetrates the White House.
They turned it off.
Someone thought it was pretty annoying, so they said, oh, what's that sound? Let's turn that off.
Yeah, and I don't think that the solution is to make the fence bigger. I think the solution is to put a sign on the fence that says, if you jump over the fence, you will be shot. The Secret Service has the ability to do that. This guy ran the length of a football field to get not only to the front door, but to get inside. And one thing I want to bring up here is that this isn't an issue of technology or not having the ability to do things. This is a matter of locking the front door. And Ronald Kessler, who was a former Wall Street Journal and Washington Post investigative reporter, wrote a really incredible piece for Time after this whole thing happened, saying that Secret Service thinks that we're fools. And he blames this repetitive notion of these things continuing to happen on a culture of bad management and a culture of laxness that condones cutting corners. And I think that's really what we're seeing here, because we've seen this happen over and over again. And I do want to give Ms. Pearson credit for coming right out of the gate and saying, I take full responsibility for this, because we never see that in government.
Then she should have
we'll see if anyone's actually held accountable.
They kept
she did throw some praise very quickly.
I'd wait for the shoe to drop here, because his name is Omar Gonzalez. I'm Latina. I understand the Gonzalez part. I have 7 kids. Paloma, Evita, no Omars. So we need to learn more about who this guy is and what his motivations truly were.
No question, and it's embarrassing as well.
It is
the nation.
embarrassing.
President Obama facing a blistering backlash today after appearing to blame the intelligence community for missing the rise of ISIS. The chair of the House Intel Committee, Mike Rogers, saying the warning signs have been known about these extremists for quite some time, saying, quote, for over a year, U.S. intelligence agencies specifically warned that ISIL was taking advantage of the situation in Syria to recruit members and provoke violence that could spill into Iraq and the rest of the region. This was not an intelligence community failure, but a failure by policymakers to confront the threat. And this scathing rebuke from former Congressman Alan West, who served in both Iraq wars. He accuses the president of being derelict in his duty as commander-in-chief for not taking the rise of ISIS seriously sooner.
In the military, we have a simple maxim. Leaders take responsibility. They don't take credit. And for this president, who has been receiving daily intelligence briefings that he has had left on his desk, has not been reading. For this president, and for the entire world who saw ISIS cross over the border into Iraq, take Al-Fallujah and Ramadi back in February, he referred to them as a junior varsity team, JV team. Obviously, he underestimated.
Well, now the White House appears to be backtracking. White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest saying it was never the president's intent to blame the intelligence community for dropping the ball on ISIS.
What the president was trying to make clear, and this is something I point out that the president has said on previous occasions in response to questions from probably somebody who's sitting in this room right now, about how difficult it is to predict the will of security forces that are based in another country to fight. The president's commander-in-chief, and he's the one who takes responsibility.
Pathetic excuse, in my opinion. The intel community, Rachel, fighting back, saying he was warned multiple times. And this bomb dropping today. The president missed this threat, according to a new Government Accountability Institute report, because maybe he only attended 42% of his intel briefings.
That's what I was just going to bring up. 42% of them. He has time for March Madness brackets on ESPN. He has time for vacation, golf, basketball. This is kind of really dereliction of duty. This is job number one of the president.
And we learned this same nugget of information, Harris, before the Benghazi attacks, that he wasn't attending these briefings.
Well, you know what?
Why?
You talk about accountability and government job security colliding. If the president really wanted to blame somebody, has he considered maybe punishing these people? Well, no.
Right.
Because it wasn't them.
Yeah.
No. And I just scratch my head. You've got the Secret Service on one hand. He's blaming the national intelligence for what we did or did not know about ISIS. If he really has people around him that he cannot trust, why doesn't he do something about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the bigger number
It isn't
with the
intel.
intelligence reports is that he is not reading 60% of them. So he's attending 40%, but he's not attending 60% of them, a majority. But one thing that Josh Earnest did say also in the fallout from what the president did to the intelligence community is that there's no question that he relies on important advice from leaders in the military, the diplomatic corps, and from leaders in our intelligence community. So at the same time, they're saying the president is relying on the intelligence community, who is saying, we're giving you all the information that you should have had, saying they gave it to him a year ago. You still have the president throwing them under the bus when it's convenient for him politically to get out of taking responsibility.
But he's not relying on them, Bernie. I mean, if he's relying on them, then he's listening to them, but he's not taking their advice.
There's no way he didn't know. He knew what ISIS was up to. They took Mosul in June, Fallujah in February, and so he knew. He just didn't want to get us involved. That's his MO. That's his strategy, which I happen to agree with. It wasn't until the beheadings and the polls that he read and the outrage to the beheadings that he decided to take action against ISIS, which I'm sorry he did, because he caved into the emotions, and now we're stuck in this here quagmire. And so, but that he was misrepresenting what happened. It wasn't an intelligence failure. He knew. And he just waited.
Yeah, a former counterterrorism task force member was on with Neil Cavuto yesterday, and he said the administration's more concerned about being politically correct than the safety of the American people. Pretty harsh words coming from a former member of the FBI. All right, the district attorney announcing charges against the man accused of attacking 2 women in Oklahoma, beheading one of them. What we are learning now about the suspect and what his motivation could have been. Also, a day after Chelsea Clinton leaves the hospital with her brand new baby girl, we see the media treating the birth as an event like the royal baby in England. And right after the show, catch more from the couch on the web. Join us for Outnumbered Overtime. Log on to foxnews.com/outnumbered. Click the Overtime tab and tweet us questions, comments. What do you want us to talk about? We'll answer. Just let us know.